most of you were here Sunday night. Wasn't that a lot of fun?
Yeah.
Actually, the weather was really decent. Very good that way. More shade trees over there than what I thought there were, which is nice. Pavilion, a lot of shade, and a nice big fan that circulates a lot of air. And it was on low, I think. Randy couldn't keep his notes on the podium, so it was a good time. A lot of good time to reflect on a lot of the blessing God has given us. Tonight we're going to be in Proverbs chapter 8, and next week we'll be in 9 as the plan. What I'm planning on doing right now anyway is kind of do a chapter a week, but I'm going to do topics as we get into the others. We'll still read through the chapter, but hit on the topics that are kind of in that chapter until we get to the end of Proverbs. So it may get faster as we go, we'll see. To me, when I look at the big picture of Proverbs, the first 9 chapters are a lot of this repetition in a way of the idea of get wisdom and how valuable wisdom is and the importance and how you get it and all of that, in contrast to foolishness. And then chapter 10 starts with kind of the topics. There's a lot of topics as you move forward. And I looked at a list of topics that I've kind of put together, and there's like 70 some topics. So I'll group some of those together each week and get through there and put those scriptures together hopefully for us and go from there. That's kind of where we are. Tonight there's really kind of 4 sections about wisdom. Chapter 9 kind of starts out about wisdom as well. We're not going to get into 9, I don't think. And but it's a short chapter. Some of us spend a little bit more time on wisdom and foolishness, summary, and sharing those scriptures then at that point. So, all right. Some of you won't be here on Wednesday night next week. I know because you're coming at 7 o'clock. Some of you come to both. You get double points for that. No, I don't think God quite counts that way, but it will be a double blessing to go to both. It'll be a blessing whichever one you choose to go to. Wouldn't want to discourage you to go from one or the other. I would encourage you to find which one fits your fancy and kind of go from there. So tonight, Frank is going to read the first 11 verses for us about wisdom's call again, how it calls out for us. Wisdom is all around us. We probably have to be looking for wisdom, seeking wisdom, and James says we need to ask for wisdom, so we need to be looking for it. So here's a section on wisdom's call to humanity.
Does not wisdom cry out, and understanding lift up her voice? She takes her stand on the top of the high hill, beside the way where the paths meet. She cries out by the gates, at the entry of the city, at the entrance of the doors. To you, O men, I call, and my voice is to the sons of men. O you simple ones, understand prudence, and you fools, be an understanding heart. Listen, for I will speak of excellent things, and from the opening of my lips will come right things. For my mouth will speak truth. Wickedness is an abomination to my lips. All the words of my mouth are with righteousness. Nothing crooked or perverse is in them. They are all plain to him who understands. Write to those who find knowledge. Receive my instruction, and not silver, and knowledge rather than choice gold. For wisdom is better than rubies, and all the things one may desire cannot be compared with her.
All right, thank you, Frank. Again, wisdom is there. Some people would describe us as having a good angel and a bad angel that speaks to us and which one we listen to. I would say we either listen to wisdom or foolishness. Both of those are there. You choose which one you want to listen to. And you get the blessings and benefits, or you get the bad things that come from that. And verse 10 talks about choose my instruction instead of silver. That's probably not the American slogan, is it? We We, as Americans, we love our things. We're pretty materialistic, and we think somebody who has more money is more important. And the value we have of God's wisdom is probably the most important thing we can do, especially what Leaven says. But we'll go back to the first part of the chapter. There's always these phrases that describe wisdom, prudence, understanding, just a long list of things like that. And there's always the person who's foolish, simple. Your translation has some other words, but anyway, people who lack some of the wisdom. So, what stands out to you guys in those first 11 verses?
Well, I noticed that the word either understand or understanding is used a lot. So, wisdom just by itself, it isn't. With wisdom comes understanding, knowledge is involved. So it's not just a one thing that a person has.
Yeah.
It's like, I almost want to compare it to the fruit of the Spirit. He names it as fruit, but he lists several things. So, they all combine and support each other.
Yeah. And that's a little bit of how I would define wisdom, is being able to take a lot of knowledge, put it together, put the pieces of the puzzle together, and use it in life, knowing that God is the one who designed it that way. The Creator designed it that way. Ken?
Take time to put it together.
Yeah, that's true, isn't it?
I think if you do that, then you'll have the understanding of what's going on.
Yeah. This is a simplification, probably oversimplification. When you go off to college, you're a freshman and you realize you don't know a lot, but by the time you're a sophomore, you think, I'm a college person and I'm just pretty smart. And not what now? Not
everyone for something.
yeah. And then you get to be a junior, and then it's kind of humbling again. Yeah, I'm going to have to put this into practice. I'm not sure I know what I'm doing. And by the time you're a senior, you're kind of like, I think I'm getting this. I'm going to be able to know how to put it together as I get out and really start doing something. So, Frank, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I like verse 8. It says, all the words of my mouth are with righteousness. I hope so.
That's wisdom speaking. All the words of my mouth are, NIV says just. You're using that word righteousness. And you said you hope so?
I hope so.
Yeah, if we speak the words of God, we do have a lot of that within us, that power to do that. So, Wiley?
I have gained some insight to wisdom. I always had just brushed it off before. But I think that wisdom comes from your knowledge that you gain through life and your understanding of that, the consequences of that knowledge, and experiencing that knowledge will create wisdom. You got to experience it.
Right.
In order for it to mean anything.
Or if your stupidities have allowed you to survive,
Yeah.
you end up having some
Yes, yeah, some wisdom.
Yeah. But it might just almost be an accident. I wonder if it wasn't for me.
Wow, whenever I look back at my life, I'm thinking, how did I survive? But
Exactly.
it was only by God's grace and all that. You're right, Wiley. And, this younger generation is learning hands-on. We did a lot of book knowledge when we went to school, a lot of fill in the blank, a lot of learning answers. But wisdom comes from doing it. You can read that manual when you're getting ready to drive and you know all the answers and you can pass the test. But how many of us want to get in the car with one of those who've never driven before? You learn by some accidents. You learn by other people's accidents, and you grow in wisdom, and you start figuring out how to drive. And I remember, remember years ago, when we lived in Minnesota, we came down to Oklahoma, and it was real icy here. I mean, it was Christmas time. It was really icy, and my family, we were all going to go, and we got in the car, and we drove out of the garage. This was at Katie's parents' house, a long driveway, and we drove about 20 feet, and we just started sliding to the side. And I thought, we're not going anywhere. I'm parking this thing. We don't have to be there. So, and of course, you know, we drove on a lot of ice in Minnesota and Wisconsin and all of that, but that was a really icy day. But just knowing sometimes you just don't, you're not ready to do it or whatever. And as we get a little older, we have to be wise to know not to do some things, even though we think we've done it for a long time. Do your kids ever tell you don't get on a ladder anymore? That's pretty good wisdom, isn't it? But they will grow in wisdom and realize that they need to get on the ladder for us and help out, won't they? But yeah, simple, prudent, growing in wisdom and understanding. You've got to want to learn. You can't think you know it all. So, anything else stand out there? I really want to come back to verse 10 and 11, I guess. We'll spend a little bit of time there. Instruction instead of silver, knowledge rather than choice gold. If you were 20 years old and maybe 18 and your parents said, hey, we'll give you $100,000 and not go to college, or we'll spend that $100,000 on your college and you can get an education and grow in wisdom, which would you choose? Most of us would probably look at that $100,000 and say, yeah, I'll take that. But aren't we grateful that we had a chance to grow and learn? And it may be that, you know, you didn't go to college, maybe you went to a trade school, and then you can learn as much that way as any. I'm not judging that part, but getting an education, getting experience, and growing in wisdom. And I know a lot of young people love hanging out with the folks that I minister to, because your wisdom and your stories and your experiences, they enjoy, and they learn from that. So they, and I know those of you who have grandkids, they love to hear grandpa's tales and grandma's tales as well. So
When they can stop laughing.
yeah. And it has an impact. That's the neat thing. Wouldn't you like to go back to your grandpa and sit around and just listen to some of those stories and take it in, or talk to grandma about how to fix this or that or whatever? So it's a good thing. A lot of grandmothers have some things to do with babies that aren't happy or healthy or whatever, and a lot of experience that grandmas have. So good thing there. Wisdom, verse 11, is more precious than rubies. Makes me think of Proverbs 31.
Except I say, this one says wisdom's better than pearls.
Pearls, okay.
Actually, the Hebrew there says coral.
Coral, okay.
And I don't know how they went from coral
Yeah,
to jewels and rubies and what was
Yeah.
yours? Pearls. Pearls, yeah.
and,
Carat for carat, rubies are more expensive than diamonds.
okay.
Maybe it's just because they wanted to pick a very valuable jewel.
Yeah. Yeah, I would probably put diamonds there today. The way we look at diamonds, we would probably say that today. So very good. By the way, Proverbs is interesting in the sense of translation is pretty difficult, especially when we get into these phrases or the Proverbs that are kind of mixed up. And I'm going to encourage you to look at different translations. There are these kind of differences of words, and one word might hit you better than another. I tend to think read a little bit more easy flowing translation because it's going to apply it a little bit more. Proverbs are the type of scriptures that are applied to life. But you may still want to do your own research, kind of like Johnny's saying, you know, get one of those maybe an interlinear or something, and be able to look up some of those words. You can do that online pretty easily. Well, anyway, a lot of us desire precious rubies, pearls, diamonds, whatever, and nothing you desire can compare with her. That's what the God of wisdom says. That's the most important thing. So if you want to be rich towards God, just read the book of Proverbs. That will fill you up, and you'll have something more valuable than about anything you can think of. All right, Doug is going to read for us now. Is that right? 12 through 21. This is kind of written from a perspective of kind of a lot of justice and prudence and all of that. So.
I, wisdom, live with prudence, and I have obtained knowledge and discretion. Reverence for Yahweh means hatred of evil. I hate conceit and pride and wickedness and a perverse mouth. Counsel and security are with me. I have understanding and strength. By me, kings reign, and officials issue just laws. By me, princes rule, and nobles judge in fairness. I love those who love me, and those who search for me will find me. Riches and honor are with me, yes, lasting wealth and favor. My fruit is better than gold, even fine gold. My yield is better than choice silver. I walk in the way of righteousness, in the paths of justice, to cause those who love me to have an inheritance, and that I may fill their treasure house.
All right. I said 21, didn't I?
You did?
I put my heading in the wrong place. I put it between 22 and 23, so. Yeah.
Yahweh possessed me at the beginning of his way, before his works of old.
I'm the one who inserted that in there. I just put it in the wrong place. So, all right. Kind of a continuation, a little bit more probably, I want to say, government or ruling over just not your own life, but over a group of people. Talking about wisdom there. And we know we'd like to have a lot more wisdom, and we should pray for our governmental leaders. Pray, pay, and obey. We need to pray for them to have wisdom. We are quick to judge and be critical when we should be praying. I think that's probably our responsibility we need to take on. Talks about the fear of the Lord again there in verse 13. A verse that kind of really stood out to me was verse 17. I love those who love me, and those who seek me find me. God empowers us. He does not overpower us. He does not force us to do anything. If we seek him, he will partner with us. If we don't seek him, if we run from him, he's not going to force us. I think that's a choice that we have to make each day, is we're going to seek God and pursue him. Again, verse 18, with me are riches and honor, enduring wealth and prosperity. That seems to be what a lot of things that we want. So anything else stand out to you guys? Oh, verse 14, counsel and sound judgment are mine. I have insight, I have power. I think about God being, it says insight, I think about God is omniscient, and I have power. I'm about to lose my voice. I have power, so that's very much omnipotent, so, God's counsel gives us a lot of insight and power. Yes, Jerry?
I see this section a little bit differently. I say this is all the things that wisdom does, not what God does, but what wisdom does. If you have truly good wisdom, you will be prudent, you'll seek knowledge, you'll have good counsel. If you're a king, you have good wisdom, you will reign justly. My fruit is better than anything. So, you know, I see this as wisdom talking to us. This is, if you have me and you have it well, this is the way you'll behave. This is what you'll do. And you know, these are also attributes of God. But where does wisdom really come from? It comes from God. So if I have these attributes, then I've got some of the attributes that God wants me to have.
It does filter down in the way we live and our whole life, so that's very good. All right, Wiley, you want to go to that next section? Yeah, 23 through 31. This is picturing, talking about, thanks very much, talking about how wisdom was here before, I guess you would say, the foundation of the earth. Wisdom was here before God created things, so.
I was formed long ages ago at the very beginning when the world came to be. When there were no watery depths, I was given birth. When there were no springs overflowing with water, before the mountains were settled in place, before the hills, I was given birth. Before he made the world or its fields or any of the dust of the earth, I was there when he set the heavens in place, when he marked out the horizon on the face of the deep, when he established the clouds above and fixed securely the fountains of the deep, when he gave the sea its boundary, so the waters would not overstep his command, and when he marked out the foundations of the earth. Then I was constantly at his side. I was filled with the delight day after day, rejoicing always in his presence, rejoicing in his whole world, and delighting in mankind.
Okay. To me, there's not a lot that stands out other than the overall thing is that wisdom came before the earth as we know it was. Wisdom was there all along. So verse 23 talks about, I was formed long ages ago at the very beginning when the world came to be. That's an interesting thought, isn't it? We think of God being eternal, so very much the eternity.
You know, as I read this, I think that wisdom is Jesus. And I think we don't consider that sometimes, but all these things apply to Jesus.
Yeah, there are some scholars who say that same thing, so.
That's me.
Yeah. You're a scholar.
Not hard.
That just shows really how wise you are, Larry. Dale?
As we were reading these, it reminded me of what God told Job about where were you? And this is wisdom talking, but some of the same languages and points God made to Job.
Very good. Very good. Yeah, God had all this wisdom. Well, God is wisdom. God is love. God is wisdom. It was all there. God knew all these things before he created the heavens and the earth. I mean, he's much wiser than we probably even get him credit or that we can understand. God's wisdom is amazing. And that's when he formed the earth. I think he knew that we were going to fall. We couldn't be good enough. And so he had Jesus in mind, and Jesus was part of all of it. Sandra?
Well, I too was thinking that when this was all being read, that wisdom is a parallel to truth. Truth has always been, it will never change. It's always there. There's no variations of truth.
Almost, yeah. I was gonna say
There are
almost,
people that say, that's my truth,
right.
but there's no my truth and your truth. There's
Mhm.
truth.
God's truth, God who is truth and love.
I get out of this, it's amazing how intricate creation had to be for everything to be able to exist as it does, you know, they're talking about the waters of the deeps and stuff, you know, we have to have water in order to survive, and God made that through his creation.
Mhm.
And it just goes down to things that's necessary for life, and God's responsible for it.
Very good, yeah. Verse 31, rejoicing in his whole world and delighting in mankind. So as we grow in wisdom, probably for our own, sometimes maybe our own selfish benefits, maybe that's our motivation, but growing in wisdom is taking truth. What Larry's saying about Jesus, we take God into our lives, and the more we take in this wisdom and live this wisdom, the more, not that we become God like Mormons think, but we become more God-like. We become more holy. We become more what God wants us to be, what he designed us to be, complete, fully formed in Christ. So, very good. Dale, would you mind reading 32 through the end?
Now then, my sons, listen to me. Blessed are those who keep my ways. Listen to my instruction and be wise. Do not ignore it. Blessed is the man who listens to me, watching daily at my doors, waiting at my doorway. For whoever finds me finds life and receives favor from the Lord. But whoever fails to find me harms himself. All who hate me love death.
I think about all those who hate him don't realize how much they really are loving death, do they? They're pretty wound up in themselves. Several things in there. Listen. Listen is at least 3 times I see. So we take in God, we listen to God. Yes, Ken?
You know, as we're reading this passage, we attribute the Proverbs to Solomon. And as we're reading, we're thinking, well, Solomon penned these words through his wisdom. But let's look at it a little differently. Let's look at it as God's Spirit proclaiming these words to us. And it's like God is saying, my son, listen to what I'm telling you. Leave Solomon out of it. Just listen to me. And with that thought in mind, these last verses just kind of jumped out as much more meaningful for me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very, very true. As I see Proverbs winding down, it's just the way I'm viewing it now anyway, probably. The value of wisdom. Nothing compares to it. You need to seek it with all your heart. You need to fear the Lord as the beginning of wisdom, and you really take it in and you start living the godly life that he calls us to. Which again is just his perspective gives us so much on how to live, I think. Anything, and there's several things there. Anything stand out to you guys?
For those who find me, find life and receive favor from the Lord.
Yeah. We are blessed people that we have found God. A lot of people search for God. They don't even know what to look for in a lot of cases. But they're seeking God and they give up too soon sometimes.
Then he gives the converse
Yes,
in verse 36.
yeah,
But whoever fails to find me harms himself, and all who hate me love death. It's sobering.
It is, isn't it? It's somewhat, it's a little bit of hellfire and brimstone. It's somewhat scary. But it is reality. We are blessed to know God and to make Him known, and we have that responsibility to make Him known. But if we fail to find Him, we don't hurt other people. We hurt ourselves most of all.
We may be the only group here that can still remember when hellfire and brimstone was a repetitive part of sermons.
Yeah.
Been a while.
Yeah, it has. And in some ways, a study diet of that might have a different image of God, but I think we need a healthy respect and admiration. God is not a goody God, but He is a great and awesome and powerful God. And He is also a severe God. If you don't, you're going to be harmed. You harm yourself. And you love death. So why?
I think their wisdom of the world that they can have. There's a lot of people that are wise in their own element, like engineering or anything.
Mm-hmm.
They can be wise in that, but spiritually wise is what really matters. And so many people don't understand that.
Yeah. A large part of, again, I mentioned earlier about James. James says if anybody lacks wisdom, he should ask God. Unfortunately, too many people want wisdom that's going to make them rich and famous rather than make them like God has designed us to be. So that's a real challenge.
You take that verse out of James, we got to remember that we are not Solomon. Solomon asked for different things, but God gave him wisdom. I look at key words in this last section. Listen, keep, hear, listen again, watch, wait, whoever finds. It's an active thing that we have to do. It's something we can't just sit back and, okay, God gives me wisdom.
Right.
We got to do our part too.
Right. Now, the wise man built his house upon the rock. A lot of intention there. And so we want to be careful how we build our life. Okay?
I was looking at your outline there, and the last thing says, wisdom is God's companion from eternity past. Wisdom is God's constant delight. I like that. That's His companion from eternity past, forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good. All right, Dan?
Yeah. Continuing in James in chapter 2, verse 17. But the wisdom that comes from heaven is first all pure and peace-loving, considerate, submissive, full of mercy and good fruit, impartial and sincere, peacemakers who sow in peace raise a harvest of righteousness. Right? When you ask for wisdom, he then explains what it is.
Yeah.